local media, increase in polarization, democratic values. One of the long-standing challenges that we see with democracy is that democratic institutions always have to be defended, and that they need constant maintenance in order to remain vigorous. One of the biggest challenges that I talk about in my recent book is the drastic decline in local news in the United States in particular, and more broadly around the world. We've seen a decline in traditional media, but especially a decline in local media worldwide. And that actually comes from a surprising place. The biggest challenge for local media is that for decades, more than a century, smaller audiences got more revenue per person, which meant that if you had a local paper, you made more per person than you would if you had a national paper. With the internet, that's no longer true. There's no such thing as a small but valuable digital audience. And the result of that has been the cratering of advertising revenue for local media around the world. So much of the increase in polarization in the US and in other countries relates back to the decline of local media. When the only news you get is national, everything gets filtered through a national lens. And ironically, we have weaker parties but stronger partisanship. And that's a deeply concerning problem. Every time you see news on Facebook or on Google, what you're actually seeing is filtered through an algorithm. And they have a profound effect on what people see and more broadly about sort of the norms surrounding politics, even more broadly than what the formal body of political knowledge that citizens possess. The internet has strengthened some democratic values. It's also drastically weakened some democratic institutions and other democratic values. In general, I would argue that actually democracy is more fragile now than it was a generation ago. I think that for local news, given the enormous decline in local news, the only thing that's going to fix that in particular is some form of government funding. There's no other solution that comes close to patching this enormous hole that we're facing in terms of the loss of reporters and the decline of these institutions.